We can.
Yes, Elena, of course.
First of
Hear
all,
you and see you.
Thank you. I would like to congratulate the organizers for this initiative, especially Dr. Taleb Rifai, who has been at the forefront of global coordination and cooperation efforts for travel and tourism's recovery and resilience. And also, I would like to thank you for the invitation to share with you today the priorities from the European perspective. Resuming travel in a safe, responsible, and sustainable way is a top challenge requiring immediate action globally. And it's also a vital condition to further encourage cooperation and investment for tourism, such in Europe and Africa. Travel and tourism has been one of the hardest hit sectors by the pandemic in 2020 and cannot afford another year of recession or stagnation. Too much is at stake, with millions of jobs still at risk of being lost. Small and medium-sized businesses must be supported for securing a viable future and therefore to avoid a domino effect in the economies in several other sectors and in local societies, especially those that rely on tourism. 2021 is another difficult year, even more since several countries globally and whole areas such as Europe are now experiencing a third wave of the pandemic. Recovery will be gradual and it will take quite some time to return to the levels of 2019. So it's very critical and urgent to open travel and tourism with safety, without jeopardizing public health, the economy, and the well-being of local communities. This can be accomplished only with mandatory testing before every departure and with, why not, the rapid vaccination of the population everywhere in the world without discrimination. It's also a responsibility of Europe to support the rapid vaccination of Africa through a strong COVAX facility, but we should be more ambitious. We are fighting to expand vaccine production everywhere in the world by lifting or buying patents from the pharmaceutical companies. Already the vaccination is delayed. We know that. Not all the EU countries, they have the same fast rhythm of vaccination. Personally, as a member of the European Parliament Transport and Tourism Committee, TRAN, I have urged since last year for common protocols and rules in place regarding opening borders and resuming travel safety. The European Commission has delayed even for this and has yet to announce update recommendations for member states on how to safely open travel with the European Union, but also between Europe and third countries. Only recently, the Commission presented its proposal for a digital green pass, which is basically the technical approach to facilitate cross-border travel procedures with commonly accepted certificates of people that they have either been vaccinated, received a negative PCR test result to 72 hours before departure, or have recovered from COVID-19. The European Parliament, on the other hand, has made a clear statement calling the European Commission and member states for testing prior to departure. This position was included in the recent report that I proposed to the European Parliament Transport and Tourism Committee, TRAN, regarding a European strategy for sustainable tourism. Following my proposal and initiative, the TRAN Committee carried out the report and it was voted with vast majority by the European Parliament. Scientific evidence shows that the vaccine protects only the vaccinated person, and unfortunately, that those vaccinated can also be infected with light or no symptoms and even transmit the virus. So we proposed that the vaccination certificate can be used only for medical reasons at the moment, and in the future, for travel purposes, only if the general public is vaccinated and herd immunity is achieved. Vaccination is slow, I told you that before, in areas as Europe. And the World Travel and Tourism Council suggested even rapid testing as the key to unlock international travel. I wanted to share with you the current situation and these very important aspects because it is an issue that concerns all of us, every country, every government, and every policymaker. Mandatory testing prior to departure is right now the most viable way to better prevent the virus and its strains from being spread and minimize the chances that tourism season will abruptly be put to a stop. Like last year, we need a long touristic period for survive the SMEs and also the national economies. You know, political decisions and opening tourism must be based on the firm evidence of the global scientific community, and they are critical because they affect national economies and investments. For my previous position as Greek Minister of Tourism between 2015 and 2019, I had launched a national tourism policy for sustainable growth and promote Greece as a 365-day destination supporting the development of thematic tourism products. And now, as a member of the European Parliament responsible for tourism and transport, I'm working on the need of European strategy for sustainable tourism, a European mechanism for crisis management in tourism, like the pandemic. In the past, we had extreme weather conditions, we had refugee issues, we had even safety issues. And for adequate funding to support the sector's recovery and sustainable development, elevating in the European agenda the role of tourism as an accelerator for growth, employment, and socioeconomic progress to the benefit of all, for the European Union, but also for international cooperation. Europe is the #1 global destination. 10% of the GDP of Europe is from tourism. It is also a major source market of tourists for Africa and has a significant role to play in terms of investments in helping build a more resilient and sustainably developing tourism sector with shared benefits. Following last year's announcement by the European Commission's President Ursula von der Leyen, the renewal of the European Union-Africa relationship is geared towards partnerships in 5 main fields that all apply to tourism. There are green transition and energy access in compliance with the Paris Agreement on climate change, digital transformation, sustainable growth, jobs and investments through innovative financing and skill development for women and youth, peace and governance, migration and mobility. 2 weeks ago, the European Parliament adopted this strategy and underlined that the European Union and Africa should cooperate on equal terms as part of the strategy that empowers African governments to achieve the UN Sustainable Development Goals, curb climate change, and foster gender equality, among other targets. Also, the European Parliament and the Council recently endorsed the political agreement on the neighborhood development and international cooperation instruments known as Global Europe for the new budget period until 2027. These instruments aim to support the European Union's external actions, and the European Parliament called for substantial funds to be earmarked for Africa regarding the SDGs. And our expectation also include long-term European Union financial and technical support for Africa countries to boost climate adaptation, the use of renewable energy and green economy. There are several initiatives, including the Africa-Europe Alliance, the European Union's external investment plan, and instruments related to the European Investment Bank that can all foster cooperation and investments for tourism with sustainability at its core. The European Union has recently announced several calls for proposals and agreements with African countries for the development of the ecotourism value chain with a focus on community-based and economically viable enterprises, for conservation and heritage areas, for upgrading value chains and services with high potential for job creation, including tourism, and technical assistance programs through financial institutions to work with local banks for energy efficiency and renewable energy projects which actually comply with the targets set by the European Green Deal. There are several opportunities, but much more still needs to be done through cooperation to support tourism development and investments in the African continent, especially from its top source European markets and the European Union overall. To this end, I'm at your disposal from my current position to further assist in creating bridges that support cooperation in the field of tourism. Thank you so much, and I hope I helped with the news from the European Parliament.